Good morning, my friends. I am about to run my first batch of food through my freeze dryer. I am doing applesauce, and right now I am preparing the freeze dryer. After you turn it on and you tell it to start, you wait for a few minutes for it to get ready to accept the trays. And you can see that it's counting down. I have 2 minutes, almost 3 minutes left, and then I can put my trays in the freeze dryer. While I am waiting for my freeze dryer to get ready, as you can see, I have applesauce. The bottom two that are darker colors, those are blueberry applesauce, and the top is strawberry applesauce. And they have been frozen for at least 24 hours, so they are ready to go. This saves a significant amount of time in the freeze dryer so that it's less expensive to run, and it saves you a couple hours. Well, in the meantime, what I did was I also weighed in grams how much each tray of applesauce is, because it's going to help with our reconstitution rates later. This includes the tray because I forgot to pre-weigh how much each tray weighs. But we're going to see the difference once it's done so that we can determine how much water to add back if we want to reconstitute it. Okay, as you can see, it tells you to load the trays into the freeze dryer and to close the drain valve. It's set up to remind you to put the valve in this position with the handle parallel, looking like a T, to make sure that it is closed so that it properly freeze dries. All right, my trays are loaded, so I just have to close it up, make sure that the handle is completely closed, and then all I have to do is hit continue. Now it's freezing, and that's it until it is ready to come out of the freeze dryer. Okay, the process is done. Actually, this is the second time it's been done. I did put some extra time on it because I don't know how to tell if everything's completely dry, and I want to be sure. So when it says process complete, what I do is I go over here, and there's that drain valve, and you just turn it this way and you'll hear the suction come out. Okay, that goes down into a small container in case there's any water, and you have to make sure that there's no water in there, or it will actually suck it into the machine and ruin everything that you've done. Now I get to open the doors and take out my trays. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. Okay, I believe I did need the extra dry time because they say if you touch it and it's cold, then it still needed to dry, and I don't feel any cold this time. I think last time there was a couple little sticky spots. So anyway, I'm going to weigh these again in grams. I did this once. Remember, I put an extra 2 hours on here just because I just wasn't sure. And now I get to weigh it and determine if there's loss. Okay, 758. Last time I said 757. Oh, 753. Well, it can't determine whether it is or not. So, okay, so that one stayed the same. I'm going to go grab the other one. Next one. Okay, this one feels pretty dry. No cold spots. 758 again. So they're pretty much they're within 1 gram of what they were last time. Let me go get the next one. Okay, these were the ones I was a little concerned about. Not necessarily this one, but the last two I was. So this is 768. That stayed pretty much the same. 1 gram different. Okay, these were the ones I was concerned with. 780, that's exactly the same. So it looks like the machine's sensors were really good about knowing that they were dry last time. The machine itself added 2 hour extra dry time. 784, so exactly the same. All right, that gives me a lot of comfort in knowing this. Now I'm going to go shut the machine off because it doesn't need to be done anymore. Let me show you the process for that. Okay, so now I'm not doing more dry time, and I have to determine whether I'm going to use the heat of the machine itself to defrost or no defrost. And because I want to save some electricity and I'm not going to start another batch at all tonight, I'm going to do no defrost. Now the machine will shut itself down, and I don't know how much you can see. See the ice in there? All that ice has to melt out of there. And then I can pull out this rack and clean the machine to make sure that it's dry. So I'm just going to leave the door open, and I'm going to let that defrost by itself. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this from the trays. It should hopefully pop right out. I put parchment paper down so it will come up from the bottom easier. Looking for a spatula that I might be able to get under there and lift it up a little bit. Make sure it pops out. I could be wrong at that, but don't. And just flex the tray a little bit. The first time is always the scariest, you know. Can't get that edge under there. Maybe this will help. There you go. Oh, and you can hear it. Do you hear how crunchy it is? There's my parchment paper. This feels like foam. You can see it's very crunchy. And this is how it's supposed to be. You want it extremely dry. And I'm going to put most of this. I might save a few pieces out like this so that I can eat them. I'm going to taste it real quick. Tastes really good. Tastes just like the applesauce. That is just so cool. It's got that strawberry flavor because this one's the strawberry flavored. And I'm just going to peel off all of this parchment paper. And I'm going to break it into pieces. Put it in my little Ninja here. And then I'm going to grind it to a powder. Then I have to figure out a little math when I'm done. And I will let you know how much I have here and how much of the powder to use and how much water it will take to reconstitute it. So I'm going to grind that off. This won't fit over here, and I'll be right back. This is amazing. Look at that's what's left in there after I ground it into a powder. So I'm going to put all of my stuff right now into mason jars, and then we'll vacuum seal them to make sure there's no air, because the enemy of your freeze-dried food is moisture and if there's any humidity or whatever. So I'm going to finish grinding down this, and then we'll see how much we get from these 3 trays. Okay, I have them all powdered down, and from those 3 trays I got 1 quart and a 1/2 pint. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my vacuum sealer. I just bought this off of Amazon. It was somewhere around $20 or so. And you just stick it on your jar. Hit the sealer. Oh, wrong one. And I'm going to let it get out as much air as possible. I've let it go for a good 30 to 45 seconds. And while it's doing that, I did a little bit of math. I don't know how much weight yet I lost totally, but in here I have 304 grams, and in here there's 69 grams of the applesauce. So I have to figure out how much they weighed beforehand so I can determine how much water needs to go back in those. Of course, I'm just going to add a little bit at a time. But if I were to label this for somebody else, I would want to tell them exactly how much had to go back in. Okay, my seal's on. And I'm going to do this one, and then I still have to powder up the blueberry ones. Okay, I finally got done grinding it all up. This is my blueberry applesauce. And I wanted to show you what I started with was one of these. So I had one of the blueberry left. I'm going to open that up and we're going to see if we can get it to the same consistency as this one right here. All right, so the consistency is, you know, applesauce, right? And I'm going to try, I don't know, a little experiment here. I'm not going to try to make a whole cup like that, but what I'm going to do is get an idea how much this will take. So I'm going to start with 4 tablespoons. I'm thinking that might be what I need. Get as close to level as I can. Yeah, that may be too much. Okay, 4 tablespoons of the powder, which is, as you know, a 1/4 cup. And I'm going to add, I'm going to start with 2 tablespoons of water. Don't think it's enough, but I'm going to see. Now, there is, you know, there's math you can do to this. I'm not good at mathing. So I'm going to try it this way first. Obviously that's not enough water. It absorbed it right away. And in case you didn't know, anytime you start out with something that's cold, like applesauce, you put in cold water. So I'm going to do 2 more. So that's a 1/4 cup. And I have a feeling that is going to probably, let's see. I'm going to eat this myself. I'm not feeding it to anybody else, so I ain't getting my fingers in anybody else's food. I think that's a little thicker still, for sure. I don't think it's a terrible consistency, but it's definitely thicker. So let's try 1 more. Since I don't know if I measured that powder, you know, very much. I should do it by weight. But you're not going to, you know, if you're out in a backpacking or something, you're not going to do this by weight. What I would do is just write, you know, 1/4 cup. And add, you know, 1/2 cup of water or whatever it is. Now this is smoother than this other applesauce because I ground it into a powder. But honestly, it tastes really good. That's definitely more watery. Actually, it's a little watery for me. I like this consistency better. Let me add 1 more tablespoon just to see. I think that tastes watery. I like the flavor on this much better with the 5 tablespoons. This looks really good here. I think this looks really good. Let's try it. Oh, that's really good. That's how I like my applesauce. This is a little runny, I think. This is definitely too runny for me. This has more flavor. That tastes watery. This has a lot better flavor. This is definitely more flavorful than this. This tastes like watered down blueberry. This has a very nice flavor. But I bet you if I wanted to get to this one, which I don't want to do, but I can always add powder to it. I'll bet you I would have to go. I already took a couple big bites, so I'll bet you this is a 2-to-1 ratio here. Probably 2 parts water to 1 part applesauce. And I'll look at the math and I'll determine. I'll bet you that sounds about right. Because that's, I don't even know if that's watery enough yet. That's about the same as that consistency. Yep, it's starting to dull the flavor down. This tastes very, whoops. This tastes very much closer to this now. So I think my applesauce, if you wanted to get it to this consistency, you're going to need a quarter cup of the powder and a half a cup of water. But I would do it with 6 tablespoons instead of 8. Wait, how many? Yeah, 8 tablespoons is a half a cup. I would do it with 6 because I like the flavor much better. So anyway, now all I'm going to do is I'm going to label my jars, how much of the powder to use to how much water, the date that I did it, all that good stuff. I'm going to figure out the math, and if I can figure it out, I'll let you guys know because I'm not good at mathing anyway. Okay, guys, hopefully my math is mathing correctly here. So I lost 66% of the weight of the applesauce from the total weight to start with. So when I used 4 tablespoons of the powder, it's not equal to add it back. So I believe when I added these 6 tablespoons, that was the correct amount, because that should be, I don't know. Somehow I came up with that number. So what I'm going to do, because I like the taste at that too, and the consistency, for every quarter cup or 4 tablespoons of the powder, I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of liquid, and that's how I labeled my jar. So I labeled my jar, hopefully it's not backwards, might be, blueberry applesauce. I put 4 tablespoons powder plus 6 tablespoons cold water, and it equals about a quarter cup. So if I want a half a cup of applesauce, which comes in those little containers, I need a half a cup of the powder, or 8 tablespoons, and 12 tablespoons or 3/4 of a cup of water, and that should equal a half a cup of applesauce. Now, if I'm wrong in that, please let me know, because, I don't want to tell anybody wrong. But I also figured out how to look at my machine and get the totals of everything, so that, because everything was pre-frozen for about 36 hours before I did this. So the actual time, they call it freeze time because it still has to go through its cycle, was 2 hours and 34 minutes plus an additional 13 minutes. So that was 2 hours and 47 minutes. The actual drying time, I don't know why they did it 2 ways. They say drying time was 20 hours and 7 minutes. And then final drying time was 10 hours and 59 minutes for a total of 31 hours and 6 minutes. Then they add 2 hours for extra dry time. And then I added 2 hours because I didn't know, I don't know the machine. I didn't know that the sensors were so good that it picked up that it only needed 2 hours. So it took a total of 37 hours and 53 minutes to complete the entire process from start to finish with pre-frozen applesauce. And I had those trays pretty loaded. I'll have to look at the weight in pounds, because you could go up to 10 to 15 pounds of your applesauce, and I did it in grams, so I didn't do that math yet. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to figure out how many pounds I put in there, and I'm going to make myself a little scale with how many grams that is in pounds. So anyway, that's what I came up with. If I'm wrong, please let me know, because I'm not that good at math. I could do basic math, addition, subtraction, multiply, dividing, really good in my head. But when you get beyond and you do all the algebra and all that stuff, it's a little more difficult for me. So anyway, I really am happy with how this turned out. And I know I'm going to be able to do some long-term food storage besides canning. I mean, if I put those in Mylar bags with the oxygen absorbers, these could go like 20, 25 years. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. I might do that because I still have enough applesauce to do a whole load yet. So I might put some of that into Mylar bags. But this is just going to go on my regular, storage. And this is good for 3 to 5 years with just vacuuming the air out, from what I understand from reading. So anyway, more freeze drying to come. I'm so excited. I will take you on this journey with me. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night.